that would be, it would have been better 20 years ago, but, I mean, it would have been great 2 years before you were born, but now's a good time instead. You know, and it was difficult to conceive of, but it doesn't have to be 20 years ago. It could be a year ago, it could be 6 months ago, it could be yesterday. What are some of the things that would have been great to have started a long time ago? Yeah.
Like loving people, or like seeing like the good in life or whatever, because you don't know when your life is gonna end, or
Yeah, appreciating life.
Appreciate it. How do you do that?
Like every moment you take it in, like when I'm out playing, like when I'm out playing, I stop and think, I'm really here, and take deep breaths, and just look around me.
You ever thought about that? Like, you really just stopped and taken the moment, and really thought about it.
Like sometimes I think like I'm really a human being, I'm really here.
That's an odd thing. That's a really strange thing to start to conceptualize. It's something that's domestic to all of us. We're all human beings. But have you ever actually stopped and really thought about this fact that you're conscious? Like, what does it mean to be conscious?
You're not a rock.
You're not a rock, okay? I'm not a lot of things. I'm not a cat. A cat's conscious. At least my cats are, because they're special. Yeah, I'm not a rock. What does it mean to be conscious, though? To have a will. Okay. And what does that mean to have a will? So it depends on free will. Oh my God. So it might turn out that we don't even have free will. That's another time, though. So maybe having volition, having a will. Like, how about this? Where does your consciousness come from? How does it happen? What is it? I can save us a whole couple of years. You know, we don't know, man. We don't know. We just know that it is. And it's one of those things that we try to figure out, like, what is it? It's too much thinking. Yeah, but it's important for a number of reasons, not the least of which is if we can figure out what it is and how it's generated, we might be able to make it ourselves. In other words, have you ever wanted to live forever? Or even just a lot longer? One of the ways that we can do that is if we can transplant your consciousness into something else. Like, you say now, like, we're talking about, someday we'll be able to download our consciousness onto a computer and then put your consciousness into another body and thereby transfer your consciousness. Where did that even come from? Oh, someday we'll be able to. Based on what? We don't even know what consciousness is. We don't know what it is. We don't know where it comes from. We don't know how it operates. When we say things like, oh, it comes from the brain, we don't know that. We have no idea. We've been trying to figure this out for over 2,000 years. There are some people who have some speculations, but we don't know. We don't even have a hint in certain directions of what this is. This thing that we have called consciousness is so incredibly unique and powerful, and it operates differently from any other animal on the face of the planet, which starts to beg certain questions about our place in all of it. But man, if you can actually sit there and stop and realize that whatever it is that you're experiencing right now, even where you are right now, you're the only person in the history of the universe who's going to experience what you're experiencing at this moment. It means that every single experience you have is unique to you, entirely 100% unique to you, whether it's good or bad. Which tells you that every single moment is at the very least special. In just the generic sense. It could also be precious. It could also be valuable. But at the very least, every single moment that you're experiencing is special. It will never happen again. And that's part of the beauty of it. One of the beauties of like my favorite painter, Caravaggio. Caravaggio's paintings, they're unbelievably good. He's a Renaissance painter. And one of the reasons that they're so precious is that they're never going to happen again. The guy who made them, the personality that made them, the consciousness that made them, the master that made them, he's gone. He's been gone for 500 years. These things will never exist again. And at some point, these things will cease to be. And it's one of the things I can strongly encourage you. Right? If curiosity, how many of you guys want to travel? Want to travel around? Yeah, you should. You should. I hate traveling.
Why?
But I love having been there, though. I love having been there. Because when I travel, my mind is never at ease. My mind is always thinking I should be someplace else. You know? And so, and I've been all over the world. I mean, the only place I haven't been yet is Africa. I can't wait to go there, man. I want to go to Serengeti, and I want to be able to look up at the stars. Now, far away from any city, far away from any artificial light. And I want to be able to look up there, and I want to see what our ancestors saw that caused them to head north out of Africa to cross the Sahara Desert. I mean, hundreds of miles of desert with no idea what's on the other end, or even if there is another end, But there was something in the stars that caused them to follow those lights and head that way, head north. Or I guess it would be that way from here. And then cross the Sahara Desert where they had no idea what was on the other end, or even if there was, or if there was death or life. All they knew was, there might be something else out there. It's worth finding out. There's something else out there, maybe. And it's worth finding out, because whatever it is that's here right now, it's just not enough, It's just not enough. Not in the sense of being unsatisfied, but in the sense that there's got to be something more, because our spirit tells us that there's something more. There's something in us that tells us that there's something more out there. That's what causes us to look up at the stars and to think, I don't know if you guys ever look up at the stars and you get a little heart sick in a certain sense, because you really, really want to go there. Yeah. I remember when I was in high school, I got into a fight at a school dance and got kicked out. And I went to the baseball field with this girl at the time. And I was looking up at the moon, and I got so furious for some reason that it was like right there, and I couldn't go there, And then you start looking at all the other stars, and you're just thinking, like, I mean, look at our planet. Look at the wonders that we have on our planet. From the landscapes to like, look at the Grand Canyon, look at the Himalayas, all of these beautiful natural landscapes we have, and every star out there has planets around it. And some of those planets are rocky, like ours. And the environments, of course, are dramatically different, but they all have natural wonders and landscapes like that. They all have these things that are waiting to be found. And the tallest mountain in our solar system is on Mars, Mount Olympus. It's a weird one, though. If you stand at the peak of it, you don't see anything. Because, like, our mountains go like this, So you can stand at the peak and look over the edge and go, wow, I'm at the highest point on Earth. But that mountain is such a gradual incline. It's like this. So, it isn't peaking, you know what I'm saying? It's a gradual grade incline. So when you look out, it just looks like you're on a desert. But it's still the highest mountain, it's the tallest mountain on in the solar system. So what? I'd still like to see it, Several years ago, they put out this call for people who wanted to go to Mars to set their first colony. It's a one-way trip, and they were going to take 7 people to go. And I applied for it. I'm like, I'd like to do that. I'd like to go there. And it turns out there were like 120,000 applicants. Like, my God, there are 120,000 other people who are willing to just go somewhere and die, just so they can see a red landscape. You guys ever see? Oh, what movie was this? Gosh dang it! Not Zootopia. It's one of those, though. It's a Pixar movie. And there are these penguins, and they're trying to escape the zoo. They want to go to the Arctic. What is it? Madagascar. That's right. It's Madagascar. And it's one of the greatest things I ever saw in my life. You know the scene when they finally get, they hijack the ship and they finally get there? Have you seen this? And it's a long scene. They're standing there. It's like a 12-second scene, and they're just like standing. It's like all like blizzardy, you hear all the wind, and they're just standing there. And then finally one of them goes, "Well, this sucks." They wanted their whole lives to get there. They keep talking about how wonderful it's going to be, because whatever's out there has to be better than what's here. And so and that's easy to do. It's easy for us to conceptualize and dream of better things than where we are right now. It's very difficult to take in the moment and enjoy where you are right now and be satisfied with where you are right now and appreciate it. And it's an even harder thing to appreciate where you are, but really look forward to there being other things as well. But in order to get to those other things, you have to be in a place where you can do that. Like, you can go to Italy, and you can go to the museums, and you can see the art. But if you kind of have front-loaded, and if you know what you're looking at, it becomes so much more impressive. everything becomes so much more impressive when you understand it. And that's exactly the case with the world as well. Everything in the world becomes so much more interesting and impressive when you understand more of it. Boring people are bored. And I don't mean this in the sense of making fun of anybody. Please don't take it to be that way. But boring people are often bored. And boring people are people who who are satisfied going through a life without trying to figure out why things are the way that they are. And once you start to investigate and find out why things are the way they are, you don't have time to be bored. There's just too much. About 5 minutes ago, I asked if you'd like to, how many of you like to travel? I said you absolutely should do it because anybody want to go to Paris? See the Eiffel Tower? The Eiffel Tower is just this like steel, there's like a bridge that got folded in half, But it doesn't look like that. If you go there, it looks very different. There's something about standing at the base of this thing and looking up at there and going, okay, now I can see what it is. Now I can see why people like it so much. If any of you want to go to Mount Rushmore to see the mount where they carved in the heads of former president, go look at that. It's unbelievable. You stand there and you look at it and you're like, it's so weird. It's like a cartoon in the middle of a mountain. The problem with this is that it's in the middle of nowhere. You have to go to South Dakota. When I was a little boy, my dad took me. I don't know how old I was. But I remember going there, and even as a little kid, I stood there and I was like, wow, that's pretty impressive. Yeah.
Just topic. I was reading an article that said like the natives, they were doing like the same work, but they took them over like 100 years to
chisel it out?
Yeah.
That's unreal. Even like with Mount Rushmore, they used dynamite. They just blew stuff up on the mountaintop, and they're like, all of a sudden you got faces. And it also tells you something different about the times, though. Why did they do it? Because it looks cool. People died making that thing. Many people died making that thing. Why? So we can have faces on the side of a mountain. Could you imagine doing that today? And then people, the first person dies. Oh my God, we need to stop this process. There needs to be an investigation. We have to find out what happened. Back then, man, we were like, we'll die for it because it looks cool. Because it means that it's a sense of achievement. It's like I say all the time, like we stand on the shoulders of giants. You've heard this before. Yeah, I think that was Newton who said that. He says that we stand on the shoulders of giants, that we stand on the shoulders of the people who came before us. There were people who died making that, but in doing so, we discovered some things. It's like you look at the space program, you look at rockets that go up. A lot of people died when we first started doing that. But we stand on the shoulders of those people who died. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'd rather be the guy who lands on the moon than the person who didn't make it the first time. I don't have a desire to die for something like that. But man, if there's something that's worth dying for, maybe it's something like that.
Like going to Mars?
Yeah, like going to Mars. I was thinking, man, if I get to Mars, there's 7 of us. We set the place up. We're chilling. If I kill them all, I become the king of Mars.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get a towel. Yeah, I'm going to get a towel and like a curtain rod or something, and then I'm going to take a picture of myself with the towel as my cape, and send it back to Earth and say, greetings, Earthlings. I am your Martian conqueror. But no, I would. But that would probably get me excluded making that joke, right? And then, oh shit, he's going to do it. But there's just something that's there about being there, and realizing that you would be the first person in the history of the universe, the first human being in the history of the universe to see something that nobody else has ever seen. Man, what's that? Aliens, if they're there, dig them up, find little fossils, try to shake one of their little fossil hands. I met the first Martian. But the point is that, yeah, you'd be the first human in the history of the universe to see what you just saw. But you already are with everything that you do. It just feels common and unique because there's a lot of people sitting in the room right now, but there's nobody who's sitting where you are with the experiences you have and the thoughts that you have and the perspectives and so on and so on and so on. Every single moment is entirely special and unique to you. You're the only person in the history of the universe to experience it, and you're the only one who's ever going to experience it. So, we we don't see it this way. And so we fall into the mundane. And then it becomes very difficult to appreciate every moment. And then it becomes this cliche. Appreciate every moment. I know I should appreciate every moment. But man, do you value your life? Because that's what your life is made up of. A whole bunch of moments. And the more that you can learn to appreciate that, the more that you can learn to appreciate life itself. And then you're going to understand some things about yourself, and you're also going to understand some things about other people. Other people are we have different perspectives, we have different ideas, but that's because they're sitting in a different chair than you're sitting in right now. They're sitting someplace with different experiences. You know? We're all the same in that we all have loves and hates and passions and all of these things, but we're also very different because of the perspectives that it generates, because of this thing that happens in our psychology. You know? But in order to appreciate those things, you've got to put yourself in a position, in a mindset. Now imagine if you had started appreciating every single moment 5 years ago. You know? Imagine where you'd be today. No, but you didn't. But you can do it today. You know? And if you don't do it today, and you completely forget about this, and then let's say that you hang on to these journals, which you should. You should hang on to these journals, especially as you get older. It will be a wonderful window into who you were when you were your current age. You have to be able to look back, and also it'd be wonderful when you have kids someday. You don't say, well, let me show what kind of a student I was. That's not important. What's important is that you do your best. You know? This is one of the reasons I say it's important to do the right thing. Wouldn't it be great to be able to tell your kids someday, I did the right thing, rather than be that person who has to say, listen, I did the wrong thing, but I want you to do the right thing. Can you tell me which is easier which is the easier example to follow? Isn't it so easy to call the second person a hypocrite? Oh, you didn't do this stuff. Well, you want me to. Yes, because I see the consequences of it. I'm not you, though. It's going to be different for me. Blah, blah, all those cliches that we hear. None of which are true, by the way. They're all just deflections of responsibility. Consciously, too. Because we all know that that's true. We all know that so many of the decisions that we make, we would be heartbroken if our kids made those decisions. We would be heartbroken if the people that we love made those decisions. We make those decisions every single day. You know? So maybe that's a big part of it. Start treating ourselves like somebody who matters. Start treating yourself like somebody who you actually love and care about. And it'll probably shape the ways in which you behave. Probably. It will shape the ways in which you behave. For the better. And not just for you, but of course, because then that reflects to everybody around you. And then that puts you in a position where if you want to have that family someday, then that's going to put you in that position of being able to be a real role model to your children, to your kids specifically. You know? So one of the things I get grief about from other teachers and from students, I'm pretty straightforward. I'm not a role model. Don't ever take it. I come up here like, God, be like me. No, don't be like me. But I've gone there, I've seen it, I've come back to warn you about it. Wouldn't it be wonderful to be able to be that person who can go and actually genuinely say to your kids, look, this was my journal. This is the thinking I was doing. This is the work I was doing. Why? Because I wanted to put myself in a better position so that when you came along, you could be in the best possible position you could be in. You know? But that work starts today. It would have been great to have started 5 years ago. Forget it. 5 years ago was 5 years ago. Or 4 years ago was 4 years ago. You know? The question is, where are you today? And where can that put you in 4 or 5 years? Because the possibilities that you have that are open to you and the potentials that you have, you can't even conceptualize it, like what you're capable of. You know, because you've never maximized, you've never optimized yourself. And please don't take from this that I'm preaching at you. You know this. I'm not telling you anything that you don't already know. You're not everything that you possibly could be. And yet you live in a culture and a society that tells you that you're perfect and wonderful and special just the way that you are. You are special, yes, but you're not perfect. And if you're wonderful, you're the extreme exception. And I wonder how many of us walk around really truly believing, I am wonderful. And not just saying these mantras, hoping that someday we're going to believe it ourselves. You know? Like Franco says, you can't just command someone to laugh. You have to have a reason to laugh. You can't just command a person to be optimistic. You have to have a reason to be optimistic. You can't just command yourself to believe that you're wonderful. You have to have reasons for it. You know? And so how do you start that? Well, better today than never. Yeah, it would have been better a few years ago, but you've got to be able to let that go. That's that guilt that Franklin talks about. Guilt should not stop you from becoming the things that you should become. Guilt shouldn't make you say, I'm a piece of crap, you know, I screwed this up 4 years ago, whatever. You know? So, start today. And again, the beautiful thing is, you don't need me to tell you what it is. You don't need anybody else to tell you what it is. You already know. You just got to do it. You know? Questions? Comments, concerns, complaints, criticisms, critiques?
Sounds great. What you said,